Hey, welcome to another episode of Who Asked You Tattoo. I'm Robia, and today's topic is going to be on asking a tattoo artist for a quick quote, just sending a message and saying, hey, can you quote this real quick? So I want to dive into really why that's not a good thing to do today. But before I go into it, I want to mention I am talking primarily about custom tattoo work. I'm not talking about flash work where you might walk into a street shop and just pick something off the wall, or you've just downloaded an image from Google or Pinterest or one of these places. It's an exact image and you're asking an artist to replicate that image. That would be more considered a flash piece. I'm primarily talking about custom tattoo work where you are asking the tattoo artist to create a custom piece from scratch for you. So it's a little bit different. No, there's no right or wrong on either of them. But when you're asking for a quote for a custom piece, it's a lot different than if you're just asking for a quote for something that's already on the wall in a tattoo shop. So before you do anything, before you ever ask any artist for a quote, I think the first thing you really need to do is make sure that you're talking to the right artist for your piece. So that's a really important thing. I get a lot of people that come to me for work that I don't do. And if you're not sure how to find the artist that's right for you, if you're not sure how to do that, or you're not sure if you even know, then I would recommend that you go back and watch my episode or listen to my episode on how to pick a tattoo artist. That will help guide you and get you in the right direction. That way you can then be even approaching the right tattoo artist if you're trying to get a quote for a tattoo. So, to kind of get into this with you guys a little bit, I find myself rather frustrated as an artist with this almost every day. I get messages in my inbox through Instagram or through Facebook, and I mean almost every single day, sometimes more than once a day, where somebody, and it typically goes like this. It'll be an image, maybe two images, and how much in text. Or I might get a little bit more information and somebody says, hey, I want roses down my arm. Or somebody will say, oh, I want this image and I want it palm size on my chest. How much? So immediately when I get these messages, and most custom artists that I know, when we get these messages, the first thing we think about is, I have a million questions. There's so many questions that go into this. So somebody says, I want roses down my arm. Well, what kind of roses? So going into this whole thing, why it really isn't appropriate to ask a tattoo artist for a quick quote. The reason for that is all the questions that we need answers to before we can even assess a time frame or a price to this tattoo. So the things that we need to know in order to determine a quote, first and foremost, is how long this tattoo is going to take for us to do. Most tattoo artists price based on the time that it's going to take to do the piece. In order for us to be able to determine how long this piece is going to take, this is the things we need to know. Number one, where exactly do you want this tattoo? Do you know exactly where you want it on your body? Are we talking, when you say your arm, are we talking an upper arm, a forearm, an inner bicep? There's all sorts of different places of your arm that you can get tattooed. So we need to know exactly where this tattoo is going, so we can kind of get an idea of size. That leads me to the next thing we need to know. The second thing we need to know is exactly how big is this tattoo going to be? Now, when you send a DM and you say, oh, palm size or small or medium or large, and I've talked about this before in my podcast on how much tattoos cost, but when you just say a generic size, that doesn't give us really any information. If you say palm size, well, I'm 5'2". I have tiny little palms. If you're 6'4", your palms are probably going to be a couple of inches larger than mine. So it can be a big difference when you're talking about how much detail is going into a space. An extra couple of inches on a tattoo can affect the time a fair amount. So you've got where the thing's going to go and how long the tattoo is going to take. what style do you want it in is another thing we need to know. For artists like myself and several artists that I know, we do multiple styles. I do black and gray, I do color, I do simplistic, I do pseudo realism, I do painted style imagery. And so it's really a matter of what style are you asking for this to be. And if you're dealing with an artist who does color and black and gray, the difference between color and black and gray and how long the tattoo takes can make a big difference. And I've had a lot of people ask me, is color more expensive or is black and gray, why is color more expensive, or is color ink more expensive? It's not the color of the ink that makes it more expensive. It is the amount of saturation in the skin required to create color images versus black and gray images, where black and gray images are actually black, and then as it gets grayer and grayer, it's actually more of your skin tone showing through, so it's not as much saturation. So we need to know about color versus black and gray, different styles, whether you want it traditional, whether you want it really solid black contrast, heavy black work. This kind of stuff is going to be a big determining factor on how long the tattoo will take, which will then determine how much we quote you on a tattoo. So we also need other details. That I usually have a lot of questions for my clients when they're coming in for custom work. Sometimes my consultations go really quick. Sometimes they take an hour. And it just really depends on what we're trying to accomplish. If you are doing a representational tattoo, then we need to talk about what we're trying to represent, how that feels for you, and all that good stuff. So it's also important that we get all of the details. If you send an image of some roses and you send me black and gray roses, and when I talk to you, you say, oh, it's color. Well, I didn't know based on the image that you sent me. So a lot of times there's a lot more conversation and questions that need answered before we can even begin to assess a time to then give you a quote. And really, like I said, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is assess a time. That's how most tattoos are priced. Whether the artist is doing sit fees or they're doing by the hour, it's almost always based on how much time it's going to take. How many hours is it going to take? How many sittings is it going to take? And there is no way for us to know this until we have those questions answered. And that's really why it's asking a tattoo artist to give you a quick quote on a custom piece is like asking somebody to how much it's going to be to build a home, but you don't know what you want in it. You don't know how many bedrooms you want. You don't know if you want marble counters or concrete. You're asking somebody to put something together for you without any information. So it's really not very possible for us to give quick quotes on custom designed pieces. So when you are attempting to get a quote, I guess what I really should say, and I don't really like to bash people too much, what I really should say is if you want a quick quote, don't. Just don't ask a custom artist for a quick quote. It just isn't feasible for most of us to actually give you a quick quote on something. A lot of times too, like I said before, you're asking the wrong artist. I literally had an email or a message this morning asking me to do a piece that isn't something I do, with lettering on it, which I don't do lettering. So this piece wasn't something I would do at all. And on top of it, they asked me for a quick quote. And so I had to give them a fairly lengthy response. Well, when I get multiple DMs a day or a week with the same question, hey, how much? I want to give people a really good answer. I don't want to just say, no, I can't do that. I want to be polite to my clients and I want to give them the information that they need, but it gets really exhausting for us as tattooers to have to create these lengthy explanations as to why we can't give you a quote. So when you get to a point where you're ready to get tattooed and you want a quote for your tattoo, I do understand that pricing is important. You need to know whether or not you can afford to get tattooed. That's completely reasonable. What you need to do is first, like I said, find your artist. Find the artist that seems like it's going to be the best fit for you. Maybe find more than one, so you have the option after speaking with them to choose who you want to go with. So find your artist. I'll mention my other podcast on how to find the right tattoo artist. If you're not sure how to do that, go check that out. Find your artist. Once you have found an artist that you want to work with or you think you want to work with, If you found them on Instagram or on Facebook, chances are they're going to have some sort of information at the top of their profile about how they prefer to be contacted. I know a lot of tattooers on Instagram don't allow for DMs. I personally think, and I haven't asked them all, but I think a lot of the times the reason that they don't offer DMs is because they don't want to answer that question over and over again. And it seems to be regardless of what happens, we get so many of those messages. So follow your artist's requirements for booking. If you go to their page and it says, please don't DM me, please, head to my website, go to their website, read the information that's on their website, find out, well, A, do they really do the tattoo that I want to do? A lot of artists have a bunch of information on their website. I know I have a ton of information about what I do and what I don't do. So read, take some time and actually make sure you're barking up the right tree, so to speak, that you're actually talking to the right person for what you're trying to accomplish. So once you've done that, you go to their website, you read, then you'll know how they like to set things up. I've mentioned this in probably almost every podcast I've done, which is artists are individuals. The way I do things may not be the way that your next artist does things. So read how they like to handle it. We all run our own businesses to a certain degree. Even if you're working in another shop, even if you don't own your own studio, you're really managing your own clients and you're dealing with having to run the business aspect of things as much as you are just tattooing. And so it's important to realize that we have to run it a way that makes us comfortable and still perform highly as artists every day. So that's why a lot of artists have their situations set up the way that they do. Some artists will book 3 months out and then close their books and they won't book any other appointments. Other artists will book on a weekly basis, some book daily. It's a matter of finding out how your artist likes to book. And what I say by booking is not necessarily an appointment, but a consultation. Or maybe even just contacting them with an email and saying, hey, I'd like to get a quote. What do I need to give you? Or for like an artist like myself, if you go to my website, you can read all about what I do and then what I don't do. And then you can fill out a booking form. And that booking form asks questions that answer pretty much everything I need to know to at least give you a good consultation so we can start to determine whether, how long this thing's going to take. And then I can give you a quote. And so once you've gotten your social media down and you've figured out your artist and you contact your artist in a way that they prefer, I think you're going to find that you get a lot better response. I know sometimes if I've answered too many emails or messages in a day where clients have asked how much, I kind of get to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm so tired of saying the same thing over and over again. And I mean, that's why I created this podcast. I hope this particular podcast really gets out there. There are so many artists I know that are so frustrated at having to answer these same messages all day long. And we don't want to be rude and we don't want to be vague, but it's really tough. So I'm hoping this information really gets out there. And when you want to know exactly how much a tattoo is going to cost, put in a little bit of effort. I think most people want us as artists to put in 100%, 110% of ourselves into designing and creating and giving you a beautiful custom piece. If you could put in at least half the effort that you would hope from us in researching your artist and finding out how they operate and how they communicate with their clients, I think you'll find that you get much better results. If you have asked several artists how much with a quick image and you're not getting the response that you want, the reason for that is because they probably can't tell you, not with the limited information that they have from you. So, and like I said, most artists I know do have booking forms on their websites where you can fill it out. And again, this is for custom work. This isn't necessarily for the, 5x5 traditional Sailor Jerry tattoo at a traditional den street shop that you're going to walk in and you're going to say, hey, how much? And they're going to go, oh, that tattoo is this much at this size. If that's what you're looking for, then more power to you, and you probably don't need to listen to this podcast. But all right, I feel like I beat you guys up a little bit with this one. But yeah, it's really important. Next time you think about asking a tattoo artist for a quick quote, don't. All right. Well, I hope this information reaches all the people that have emailed me or messaged me on a regular basis. And I hope it reaches people in the future who want to email me or message me for a quick quote. I hope, again, this information is informative, and I look forward to talking to you guys real soon. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.